bosses are supposed to be the hardest content in the Borderlands games and are designed to be fought by multiple people all decked out with the best loot in the game. Obviously, when anyone hears that, the first thing we all immediately think is, could these raid bosses be soloed with the starting pistol? To put all our minds at ease, I set out to find out just that. Before we start, there's gonna need to be some rules. The first rule is obvious, the only weapon I can use is the starting pistol. The second rule is, melee is allowed, but I can't take the piss with it and just make a melee build. The third rule is, I can use my action skill, because this is hard, but I do have to be reasonable with it. I can't pick Moles or Flak or anyone like that and just use Iron Belt or the pets. The fourth rule is no glitches, like I can't use the Amp Shield, Salvador glitch or anything like that, that's cheating. And lastly, I can't use grenades. We're gonna start out with Hemoros the Invincible from Borderlands 3. I already beat this boss with the starting pistol back when it first came out, but there was a level cap increase, so I wanted to do it again. The starting pistol in this game is the Moloko, which is the only starting pistol to have a level on its card, which is 1. The boss is level 68, and this does an OP as fuck 11 damage. The first time I fought this boss, it took me over 10 hours because I was really shit and kept dying. But this time around, I actually remembered to use Zane's barrier, which as long as I don't get hit by one of the bombs or stand in an AoE, pretty much makes me invincible. My strategy for this fight was light the boss up with my gun and shoulder cannon while trying to stop any Varkids from becoming badasses, then once my barrier runs out, just run around trembling in fear until I can use my barrier again. After my first experience with this boss, I went in fully expecting to get my cheeks spanked for a few hours before finally saying enough and standing up to my abuser. But to my surprise, I had taken the form of an absolute giga chad of gaming and took this boss out first try in under 20 minutes. I think this happened because this boss didn't scale to my level like the other raid bosses in this game did. After my top 10 greatest esports plays performance, I was filled with more confidence than a creepy old guy in a pretty girl's DMs, and it was time to take on the Malawan takedown. The first part of the takedown was pretty easy. My only issue was I kept running out of ammo. I took out the Kraken and it was time to take on the first boss. It was here I probably broke the world record for fastest death in this fight, as within the first 30 seconds I walked off the map. However, this didn't break my confidence or shatter my illusion that I was some hot shit. I fought my way back to the boss and fueled by my hunger to prove that I wasn't a bot after my last antics, I died again. Eventually, after an undisclosed amount of time, I was able to pull myself together and kill the Valkyrie squad. Little did I know this was just the start of an absolutely torturous 8-hour ordeal with the second half of the raid. I died a few times fighting through the final area before the boss. Then I eventually made it to the second raid boss in my journey, Wotan the Invincible. I became briefly suicidal, but quickly snapped out of it, remembering how much of a pain in the ass it was to get here. After a near-death experience, I got his shield down pretty easily and was certain this was going to be an easy fight. I got him down to half health, then died due to me having the movement of an absolute bot without having my barrier up. After this happened, everything went completely downhill and my confidence was shattered into a million tiny little pieces. And for the next few hours, I was repeatedly murdered by either Wotan or the little dudes outside of the Wotan fight. After about 7 hours, I eventually decided that something had to change. What I was doing clearly wasn't working, so I decided to respec my character and build for survivability. After the respec, I pretty much had my barrier up for 100% of the time, so now the only danger to me was the grenades that would come inside my barrier and kill me. To avoid this, I ran in a circle around the boss and didn't stop or backtrack at all, which worked extremely well. So well, in fact, that I killed him first try after respeccing my character. So, lesson learned, don't do the same thing for 7 hours when it is clearly not working. In Borderlands 3, I saved the best for last. Everyone's favourite raid in the game, the one with the shitty crystal bit. What's it called again? The Guardian Takedown? I had only done this raid one time before, and it was all the way back when it first came out, so I didn't really remember anything about it, apart from that the crystal bit was the worst thing I have ever experienced in Borderlands. The enemies here felt so much more tanky than in the other raid, but I eventually got past the first set of enemies, did some hardcore parkour, then made it to the dreaded crystal bit. This actually wasn't as bad as I remembered. It was mildly annoying, but I managed to get through it, and with my new build, it was a lot easier for me to stay alive since I always had my barrier up. The Guardians here were a bunch of sweethearts. They never really stood on the crystals to stop them from charging. They mostly just stood outside while trying to murder me. It was really nice of them. While fighting through the next part of the temple, I was celebrating because I didn't know that there was another crystal bit in the raid. I thought I had just did the only one and would never have to deal with it again. I did some more expert parkour, and for some reason I thought this area was a checkpoint. I made it to the first boss, which was extremely tanky. Even my action skill barely damaged it. After taking down the first quarter of its health, I just stood there in this radiation bubble and let it kill me. For some reason I felt in no danger, and in my mind I was like, in the unlikely event that this is dangerous and kills me, who cares? I just passed the checkpoint anyway. It's all good. Fuck it. Well, you can imagine my surprise when I spawned back at the start of the raid and realised I had to do all that bullshit all over again. What?
I'll just get it later.
Why am I all the way back at the start? Where is the checkpoint? I thought I was at a checkpoint. What the heck? After half an hour, I was back at the boss and everything was going smoothly. I was no longer standing in radiation killing myself until I did exactly that, because I didn't know that he would cover most of the platforms in it and wasn't able to get to safety in time. Please! No! No! 40 minutes later and I finally killed that boss and made it to an actual checkpoint this time. It was now time for the most boring part of the raid, where you just need to kill these guys to make it over to the second crystal bit that I was unaware of at the time. I discovered the next crystal bit, which I failed due to being brutally murdered by Guardians. Then, on my second attempt, I actually did it no problem. But that doesn't matter, because I was killed shortly after anyway. For the next 3 hours, I was stuck either dying on the crystal bit, falling off the map after it, or dying in the crystal bit by falling off the map. I made it to the raid boss, and again, I had no idea what to do, but I thought surely this one won't have an insta-kill as well. There's nowhere to go in here, I'll be fine. Once I got a quarter of his health down, he started fucking about with this big ball, and I had a feeling that would probably kill me. I hid behind one of the pillars, anticipating an insta-death if I didn't, but at the last minute I panicked and stood out in the open where I was killed. I was able to get up, but who cares, because I was killed by one of the bomb guys the next time he did it anyway. I made it back to Scourge, and this took by far the longest out of all of the fights. However, it was the most simple, and now that I knew what to do, I didn't have any issues with it. My strategy was shoot the boss with the pistol in my shoulder cannon, hide when he whips out the ball of death, and repeat while telling myself over and over not to fuck it up. By the end of this fight, I was on the edge of a cardiac arrest and my heart was pounding so hard because of how badly I didn't want to do the crystal bit again. Despite my history of choking, I was able to hold myself together and kill Scourge, the final raid boss in Borderlands 3. On to Borderlands 2, the starting pistol in this game is by far the most overpowered, and I'm not even kidding this time. With a good shield and skills, it's extremely overpowered even though it only does 11 damage. The first fight I'll show is with the invincible son of Crawmerax the Invincible. This was the only raid boss in this game I was able to kill in Ultimate Vault Hunter, which I'm super disappointed about. The rest I had to kill in True Vault Hunter. This boss didn't deal much damage to me, and for some reason I did a lot more damage to this one than all the others when I tried those in Ultimate. I didn't really have a strategy for this, I just ran around in circles and shot at the boss whenever he wasn't in the ground. I had to try to keep my shield up as much as possible because I'm using the B and that's where most of my damage is coming from. Within under 10 minutes I had this boss dead, which is somehow faster than any of the fights in Borderlands 3 or the pre-sequel, even though it's the only one possible in Ultimate Vault Hunter in this game. The next boss is Hemoros, and yeah, the first shot and he's already at half health. This is why I was disappointed that this couldn't be done in Ultimate Vault Hunter, because in True, this thing is crazy strong. Even if I didn't have the shield, my skills just annihilate this thing. I went to the dragons next, which I thought would be a little harder because I couldn't have my shield up, but nope. It was a little slower, but they still got completely shredded like it was nothing. When I tried to fight these guys in Ultimate, I couldn't even make a visible impact on their health at all. I was just standing there burning and corroding to death, dealing no damage. But now look at them, all laying dead while I stand victorious. Now it's on to Veracidus the Invincible, and yeah. Get fucked, kid. On to Daddy Longlegs the Invincible next, and this actually took me the longest out of all of the bosses in this game. I think it was mostly a mix of my aim being bad and this pistol having terrible accuracy, so I really struggled to hit some of the crit spots. But after about 10 minutes of embarrassing myself with bad aim, I finally killed him. Pyrocaustic Pete is next, and at this point I felt so dirty. This poor man didn't even stand a chance. He's fighting for his life and just getting absolutely fucked. Next is Master Guy, who was extremely cooperative when I needed him to stand in the puddles. Made me feel bad when I was shooting him to death later. Next up is Hyperius, and I don't even have time to talk about him because he's dead. It's time for Hadarax the Invincible, who is also pretty much instantly dead. And lastly, for Borderlands 2, is Hemoros, which took me 2 days to spawn in, just for it to die in about 2 seconds. For Borderlands the pre-sequel, the starting pistol is the Electrified Aegis, which does 13 damage this time, plus 10 shock damage per second. Sounds good, huh? No, it's shite. This game only has one raid boss, which is the Invincible Sentinel, which could be killed by the starting pistol in Ultimate Vault Hunter. This one has 2 stages. This first stage was an absolute nightmare. It took me over 3 hours just to kill this little guy. The issue wasn't really that he was hard, he was extremely predictable, and I had Athena's shield which blocked most of the damage. The issue was that I was dog shit and kept dying really dumb deaths instead of just remaining calm and using my brain. My strategy for this guy was to use my shield and get right up in his face while shooting him, then once my action skill was over, I'd run away and shoot him from a distance while waiting for it to come back. After 4 long, painful hours, I beat the first stage of this fight. And it was time for the longest fight in all of the games. games. Once this guy comes out of the ground, he doesn't have an element and he is extremely predictable. He just does the same attack pattern over and over again, so I would just shoot him in the face and avoid his attacks until I took down all of his health and shield. After that, he got all of his health and shield back and now he was resistant to shock, which was an issue because most of my damage was coming from me shooting him with amp damage from the rerouter shield, which is shock. So this meant I couldn't deal any damage with my pistol and had to very slowly damage him with my action skill, and this took forever. I think it took over an hour to get his health and shield down doing this. Once that's done, he gets all of his health and shield back one more time, and this time he's immune to corrosive, which is all good because all my damage comes from shock, which means I could use the pistol again to deal damage. And after half an hour, I had finally killed him. This was the final boss on my journey of beating every raid boss and every Borderlands with the starting pistol. Unfortunately, Crawmerax the Invincible from Borderlands 1 was impossible to beat with the starting weapon in that game. I had tested it a bunch of times. I even sat in the little glitch spot and shot him with every bullet in the gun, and it didn't even make a visible dent in his health. I'm disappointed that I wasn't able to kill most of the Borderlands 2 raid bosses in Ultimate Vault Hunter, but I still think it's kinda interesting how fast they can be killed with it in True. If you enjoyed this video, you should like and subscribe. It'd be pretty cool to hit 69,420 subs by the end of the year, and with about 2 months of the year left and me currently being at 100 and something subs, I'm sure that's totally realistic. If you didn't like it, we meet on Tuesday the 21st of December during the winter solstice to settle our differences. Bring any weapon of your choice. I stream all of these challenges live on Twitch, so you should come hang out with me there and console me through my suffering. I'm gonna be a lot more consistent with my videos now that I just got a PC, so no more of this me going months without uploading any videos. Bye!